McCarthy got a brand new head coaching job, and the crowd went mild. So mild, in fact, that their owner, Mr. Rooney, said, quote, "We're not really worried about winning the initial press conference. It's about picking the coach we believe will help us win games, and social media really doesn't enter into it. And none of that will matter once we're starting to play the games. The message to our fans is we're very excited." Yahoo gave the hiring a C. It felt like a hiring that was generally dumped on by people, hence the need for such a message. Corey, what say you?
Is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Well, look at how wild would that pairing be if those two were back together in Pittsburgh.
People are digging up all those old quotes about him saying, well, he gave me freedom to be myself and stuff, so I don't know.
I mean, one of the first things they have to do is find a quarterback. It's going to be impossible to have a team do anything exceptional with Pittsburgh with a lot of talent around the rest of that roster. Older talent, mind you, but a lot of it, like, they need a quarterback there. They want to try and, I think they'll kind of keep the status quo of what they've accomplished with under Mike Tomlin, in that they'll continue to win lots of regular season games. They'll win within their division. They'll be, in the conversation when the playoffs happen. And if things go right, they might be able to win some in those playoff games as well. Kind of similar to what he had here, but I can guarantee you, he went into those interviews going, there's nothing more I want than to be the head coach of this team because I'm a Pittsburgh guy. I think he probably mentioned it a couple times. I'm not sure if
I have heard that.
But it is kind of crazy to know that dude right there has coached the Green Bay Packers, the Cowboys, and the Steelers. At one point, three of the most storied organizations in all of the NFL.
Now, do you want to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that he will be the shortest Steelers head coach of all time? And that's not to say that he's going to fail, because the current reign for shortest time as Steelers head coach is Bill Cowher at 15 seasons.
It's a long time. That's a long time, and at his age, yeah.
All right, so fair to assume that that's going to be the case. Now, somebody changed my whole thought process with this hiring, and the general thing that NFL teams do now when they put out on their social media and they're like, oh, we have completed our interview with so-and-so. Somebody posted online, can you imagine if you were applying for a job and then that company announced that they had completed an interview with you, and immediately thousands of people on social media said, don't hire that guy, he sucks.
He's a bum.
I was like, man, that would be the worst, wouldn't it? Like, every time you went on a job interview.
Yeah, and was I listening? Who was it that Nagy was? He was interviewing for a job, and everybody lost their minds, and then the owner was like, yeah, we're not really considering that guy, because he just kind of tested the temperature of what the fan base is all about. And Kevin, I do wonder how. I don't think that Jerry was, let me log on to my phone real quick and check Twitter to see how these guys feel about Christian Parker. But I do think that whenever they saw how, I think there were some whispers of, hey, this Jonathan Gannon guy, are you sure about that? A lot of people are down on this, but do we want to do another one of those things where we hire an Eberflus and everybody hates it the whole time?
I mean, I don't know. What would be ideal is if everyone could get the Grant Udinski deal. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator has pulled his name from consideration for the Cleveland Browns head coaching position because he's like everybody else. And instead, he is pursuing the Bills job, which we heard earlier today that Phillip Rivers had withdrawn from consideration of. But think about this for Udinski. So he's still interviewing with the Bills, but at the same time, he has agreed to a new contract with the Jags that includes a raise this season if he is not hired as the Bills head coach. So he has signed a side contract with his current employer saying, hey, if you don't get this other better job, we will be sure to give you a raise. That feels like some sweet-ass job security.
That kind of, didn't Brian Flores do the same thing?
Yes.
He was like, look, I know I've interviewed for some jobs, but kind of, hey, Vikings, don't fill that role just yet. I would love to have that job back. You know what? I'll go ahead and ink the deal. And still, if anybody wants to hire me, I'd love to. But yeah, and I've never seen anything like that before. Maybe this has happened before. I've just never seen anything like that because it seems like you could use that as leverage in the conversations too. Like you're going back and forth. But it does sound like the Jags said, we'll give you a little bump, and you're not going to be able to use head coach leverage unless you absolutely have the job.
Sure,
like if you have the job, then you go on to be a head coach. When you come back here, you're getting a little bump from us. So that's an interesting thing.
Now, the Giants agreed to hire Denard Wilson as their defensive coordinator. Jonathan Gannon is now going to be a defensive coordinator with the Packers. We might need to check in with Mickey Spagnola to see how he feels about this. And then I realize Ohio State is an amazing program, and maybe Mike McCarthy gave him a heads up. But did you see that Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith left to become the OC at Ohio State?
All right, dude.
Do you think it's because of McCarthy, or he's like, this place sucks?
No, he had already left Pittsburgh beforehand and was trying to interview and kind of find. He had talked to the Commanders and anybody that he can get associated with because he was, gifted this job. Like he was. Right. A lot of people, I understand there's other coaches out there, but we're like, nepotism. Your dad owned the team and was like, here, take a job. And so he was doing that. Does it feel like a fall to Ohio State? A little bit. A lot of people hate Arthur Smith, too, so this is kind of a wild thing. But you do go to a program where you get the opportunity to work with some young talent and build there. And I don't know, man. His whole story is just the weirdest story for me now that I've doved.
I definitely don't think it's divin, but I like that. And also, this is a great point from the fan text. We mentioned the Phillip Rivers news. Do you think this is the first time he's pulled out of a job search?
You mean like to be another dad?
No, I said of a job search. I specifically said of a job search to make sure we didn't get in any trouble with the pause, leaving the implication that he has so many children.
He does have lots of kids.
He does. Now, in other coaching news, the Cowboys did deny the Eagles' request to interview Clayton Adams. You gotta like that as a Cowboys fan, right? Like, I've seen some people describe it as petty, and I'm like, why would you let somebody interview somewhere else for a lateral move? Unless they know he's not coming back, and that feels like that would be pretty surprising.
Yeah, I do wonder. Broadus has mentioned many times that Adams was probably pushing for Gannon. And because of the connection they've had with each other, and so I wonder if there was a little bit of, hey, do you not trust me? I'm telling you to hire this guy. Why wouldn't you hire him? I don't know if that's the case, but I appreciate it. He did a really good job last year, getting this run game looking pretty effective. So I'd like for him to do that again.
And if it's petty, so be it. That's totally fine with me. All right, one more quick note for you. Drake May moving into the Super Bowl, onto the Super Bowl. He will be the second youngest starting quarterback ever in the Super Bowl, behind only Dan Marino. He will be 35 days older than Dan Marino when Dan Marino started Super Bowl 19, of course, famously the year that he won the MVP. They lost to the 49ers, and then he never made it back to the Super Bowl.
I'm sure that Dan Marino will be back in the Super Bowl at some point.
No, he won't. He can go to the Super Bowl, but
you're telling me that Dan Marino couldn't lace it up one more time and get out there and throw for 250 yards?
Man, there's part of me that thinks Dan Marino would throw the ball and be like, are you kidding me? So if they even breathe on the receiver, it's a penalty? Oh, let's go. Dan Marino's going to throw for 17 yards, but he's going to get 250 yards in penalties called against the defense. So, but other than that, I would say probably not.